Before I work out, should I do static or dynamic stretching? If you're wondering this too, we're gonna dive deeper into the pros and cons of static and dynamic stretching. Let's start off with talking about the general difference between static and dynamic stretching. So static stretching involves lengthening a muscle close to its furthest point and then holding that position for at least 15 to 30 seconds. While on the other hand, dynamic stretching is movement-based. It uses the muscles themselves to bring about a stretch. It's different from static stretching because the stretch position is not held. Psst, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you value a healthy lifestyle and like calisthenics and gymnastics. Now let's talk about the pros and cons to each, starting with static stretching. So some of the pros are static stretching is good for increasing your muscle length, therefore increasing your flexibility. It also helps with your recovery time, such as releasing that lactic acid from your muscles so you're not sore the next day. It also decreases your risk of injury. It is suitable for all ages. It increases your blood flow, and it also improves coordination and balance. So some of the cons for static stretching is it decreases your maximum strength output when doing it right before strength training. You're at a higher risk of injury if performed right before playing sports. For example, if I were to do static stretching to warm up for gymnastics, I'm more prone to injury just because I lengthen those muscles instead of warming them up and strengthening them. It can take a longer time if doing a full body stretching routine, and it's not advised as a warm-up routine. Now let's talk about dynamic stretching. So some of the pros for dynamic stretching is that it's excellent for a warm-up, specifically for sports. It also increases your mobility. It increases your explosiveness while performing certain things like in sports. It improves your motor skills and your nervous system. It improves your blood circulation, such as a healthy heart, and it can decrease your stress levels. So some of the cons for dynamic stretching is that it is less effective at increasing your range of motion. So if you want to become flexible, it's not the best form of stretching for that. It is not the safest form of stretching, and if performed for long enough, it can be tiresome. So now let's talk about which one is the best. Well, if you're stretching right before performing a sport, I recommend dynamic stretching. This is because it will prepare your muscles by warming them up, engage your nervous system, and get your joints ready for the activity. If you're stretching just to increase your flexibility and aren't planning to play a sport afterwards, then I would recommend static stretching. Like I mentioned earlier, it will help lengthen your muscles and release any lactic acid buildup from your previous exercises. If you're wondering which method I use to achieve my splits and how you can achieve flexibility in really anything, I used a lot of static stretches. However, I was throwing caution to the wind and not warming up before performing my stretches, which could have caused an injury. If I had to relearn my splits, what I would do differently is warm up with dynamic stretches and then end with static stretches. There's a lot of follow-along videos on YouTube that can help you become more flexible. So choose your favorite one and stick with it. But if you're wondering which stretching program my husband and I have been using to get more flexible, then click this video right here.